Jay Williamson's dad gave Jay a golf club when he was 2 years old. So obviously he's played golf most of his life. He has been designated as a grinder, but he got what could be described as a late start as a pro because he played baseball and hockey, no golf, at John Burroughs High School. He played soccer and baseball at Trinity College, but figured he would not make a living in either one of those sports, so he packed up the golf clubs, drove to Florida, and started playing in the mini tour events. Persistent? Oh yeah. He went through the torturous PGA qualifying school 8 times. I don't know how his stomach took it. 8 times. He earned his PGA Tour card 5 times. It's tough out there. He finished second in the 2007 Traverse Championship and second in the 2008 John Deere Classic, losing in a playoff both times. Despite never winning on the big tour, he earned more than $6 million chasing that little white ball. And he said, "I've lived a dream and persevered like nobody else." So we're proud to call him a St. Louisan and welcome Jay Williamson into the St. Louis Sports Hall of Fame. Give first fire, Will.
Well, as I said, I gave him a call last week, and he says we can talk about anything you want.
Well, my daughter's here.
Okay. So what do you think of the Blues?
Pass.
You know, I grew up, Jay's a little older than I did, so watching Jay, just like Jay Delsing in a lot of ways, was our PGA Tour guys. And for me, they were always an idol. So you were talking about 8 times going through the tour school. I know Jay talked about it. Was your experience similar to Mr. Delsing's over there?
Yeah. So before we get into this, I just want to thank so many people in the audience because I'm not sure I can be speaking by the end of the time. So
I figured this would happen.
you know,
I
yeah.
get it.
So 10 seconds. But, no, I really want to thank so many people, so many friendly faces. That I feel like a little bit of the Twilight Zone here. I don't love talking about myself. I usually talk about my kids. So yeah. So we'll get through this. But Q School. And by the way, it's great to see the boys down here and these guys down here. I mean, I could sit and talk for 10 minutes about Jake or Jerry Tucker or Jay Delsing, all these guys. There's so many memories that if we did that, I think half the people would be asleep. But it really is incredible to be sitting here and seeing all these people and talking about me. I don't feel worthy being here. When you hear, especially Jerry Tucker, and all the things that he's accomplished in his life, I feel like, when Greg Marisek called me and said I was going to be in the Hall of Fame, I said, well, that's an April Fool's joke, right? I mean, I don't have a career to be in the Hall of Fame. But, getting back to Q School, I always looked at it early in my life as an opportunity, where everyone else that went and played in college, they said, God, if I don't get through Q School, what am I going to do? Well, I was actually pretty happy playing the mini tours in Orlando. I was happy being a golfer. I didn't really know what I was doing. And Q School, I looked at it as an opportunity. Later in my life, it wasn't an opportunity anymore, and that's when it became a lot more difficult for me.
Well, speaking of that, early in your life, what were you really thinking? I mean, you were playing hockey in Trinity, and then all of a sudden you want to be a golf pro. I kind of always wanted to know, because, you see these Division I All-Americans and how good they are. Particularly today, there's even more depth in how good they are. And you just decided all of a sudden, I think I want to be a PGA Tour golf pro.
Well, it's complicated. I'm not sure exactly why or how or, I will say this, there's no chance that I would be able to do it today. The competition coming out of college doesn't lend itself to not playing in college and being a professional. I think Rocco may have done it. Larry Nelson, got a late start, but you don't see guys doing it today. It's too difficult. I think all the guys up here that are still playing would attest to that. But I just remember, being in college, I was always an athlete. What the hell else am I going to do? I majored in political science in college, which is, as I look back, the major of indecision. I remember being in Florida for spring break playing baseball, and I remember seeing some scores from the Space Coast Tour in Tampa, and I'm like, golf, that'd be interesting. I played a little bit when I was young, and I'm going to be a professional golfer. And And then I remember watching Nicholas win, you know, the Masters, you know, kind of that at that time. And I thought, that sounds cool, I'm going to do that. So I got in my car and drove to Orlando. And after I told my parents what I was going to do, and I think they were quite shocked at that, and I remember my dad's reaction, like, okay, and how are you going to do that? But anyway, you know, and I did have a conversation with Mr. Irwin, who I believe in fate, and he showed up at dinner last night right next to me, which I thought was really weird. And I remember Hale telling me, crazy, what are you doing? Go to law school or go to business school. He said, you're never going to make it. You shouldn't be doing this. So, you know, looking back, I certainly understand what he was trying to tell me, but at that point in my life, I wasn't going to be deterred. And you know, I'm persistent. My dad gave me that gene, I guess. You know, I'm very persistent, and I wouldn't take no for an answer. So I kept at it.
We had several highlights, not only almost winning twice in the tour, losing twice in the playoffs. You won on the web.com, I guess, whatever it was exactly at that point.
Fort Smith, Arkansas.
That's right. Now, did you win? Now, did you also win somewhere else using the same? You were like Bryson DeChambeau before Bryson DeChambeau. Didn't you have like the same irons?
I have
like
some tendencies
yes,
that he does.
I want to get into this.
Yeah, it's a little weird though, but I have some tendencies that my brain does some things that he's trying to do, so I can understand what he's trying to do. I didn't get as far into it as I think that he's gotten into it.
But you did do that. Didn't you have it to a certain degree?
Well, yeah, I was trending down that road. Yeah, I was definitely a tinkerer. You know, again, golf's really hard, as everyone in this, you know, everyone here can attest also. I mean, it's a really freaking hard game, especially when you have to make a living doing it. So I was trying anything I could to get better.
And I do think I recall another, this could be me being crazy, but I remember specifically watching you play that playoff in Hartford. I mean, I remember the whole weekend.
Yeah, thanks for reminding me.
Well, I know. It was a 6, yeah, sometimes you lose, but sometimes you just get beat. I think it was one of those you just got beat. I mean, you played awfully well.
Yeah, I would agree.
I mean, he was, I mean, it was a really, really cool. And you play another hole, you might have beat him. You don't know how that all turns out. But did you putt cross-handed on Sunday, but regular on Saturday?
Oh, probably. Yeah.
I think you did.
Well, I mean, I might have putted left-handed one of the days too. I don't really remember. Yeah, I struggled, especially on the weekend, and especially on Sunday with my putting. And I think a lot of that was that, you know, I didn't put myself in a position growing up and then playing in college and you know, and really figuring it out at that level.
But when you did, you handled it really, really well.
Yeah, not bad. I mean, you know, I had my chances, especially that period of time when I look back from 2006 through like 2008. That was, you know, unfortunately, I spent so much time, again, as these guys can understand, so much time perfecting my method that I finally got it perfected, but I was too old.
Right.
So, and to be honest with you, I actually think that I'm a better player today, even after not really competing for the last close to a decade. I feel like I'm a better player today, and I understand the game better today than I did even when I was on tour. So it took me a long time, unfortunately, to figure it out.
Well, tonight, obviously, we're honoring a lot of things Bell Reeve. So, I mean, just like Jay Nelson grew up here, played the tour from here, Norwood Hills, his connection. Your connection is Bell Reeve. I can only imagine. I remember when the BMW was here and you worked so hard and you got to the BMW championship when it was here. You had to go through that, get to the top 70 and do that. It's a phenomenal accomplishment. The Bell Reeve is obviously a special place. And I got to think, because I watched Jay go through this in Norwood a little bit, it had to be nice to have that hometown support here in St. Louis. And I think I'd like you to talk a little bit about that, maybe how your experience was at Bell Reeve, and maybe then even allude to your family, because I don't know the PGA Tour lifestyle, but I even know in amateur golf, it's the ultimate individual sport, but you need a team of people, because there's a lot that could go on up here that can happen by the time you get to that first tee. And I know you had a ton of support with your parents and your wife and your kids. It's got to be a pretty cool thing to have that going on over at Bell Reeve and in your family.
Yeah, I don't think that I would have been able to do it, replicate what I did, without the support of my wife, Marnie. She was very Actually, to be honest with you, if I had her attitude, I think I would have been a better player, especially in the weekend. She's, I'm a mess. I'm an emotional wreck, and she's a very strong woman, and she doesn't allow her emotions to take over. And unfortunately, I've got a little bit of a hockey attitude, and it's hard to get the hockey player out of me. I've really tried to do that. The support that my family gave me, I've got a whole table of supporters over here, and nephews, and my brother. My brother came and hung out with me at the British Open on like 12 hours notice. My daughter flew in tonight. Everyone has support. I was incredibly fortunate with the support that my mom and dad and my parents gave me, and my family.
That's what it's all about.
And there are other wives here, better halves, I would call them, that have supported these guys. I think that, I don't think that we would be in a position, any of us sitting up here, without the support that we had from our caddies, from our better halves.
All right, well, one last question before we get you out of here, because I'm curious, because you have...
By the way, let's get back to the Belle Reve thing.
Yes, sir.
That is when I worked so hard emotionally to get to that event, and I played okay for a couple days, and then I just lost it, and my career was really never the same, because I put so much effort getting into that event, and I was getting old at that point. But I'll never forget, this is how consumed I was, and this is how consumed the game of golf gets you. And one of the reasons that I don't really want to go back there again is because I literally forgot my wife's birthday on the Saturday of the event. And I'll never forget, because she and my brother had the same birthday. And as I was leaving for the golf course, you don't get to sleep in your own bed very often, playing in a hometown event. And I'll never forget when I was leaving for the golf course that morning, she said, make sure you tell your brother happy birthday today. And I knew at that point, I was in big trouble. And then I had to go play 36 holes with Sergio. And I don't have the career that these guys had. So, there was a lot of emotional stuff going on that week. But the support that I got from Belle Reve in that event was like overwhelming. And again, I'll never be able to forget those moments, certainly.
Well, I want to ask you, because I know you'll be candid, because you are candid. I got about a minute here. So, today's game, what do you like about it? What would you like to see fixed? And I know it's a tough question in a short time. Is there one specific thing that you'd like to see?
Are you talking hockey? Are you talking baseball?
I can go different ways, but I was thinking golf, but that's okay.
I don't know. I think that the ball goes too far. I think the fairways are way too wide. And I think the golf courses are too green. And I think golf is still too exclusive. I don't like the OB rule. Hopefully change that. I think you should not be able to tap down spike marks. And I don't think you should ever be able to pull the ball out of a divot in a fairway. I don't like where they're going with those rules. Other than that, I hope the kids get to play, because it's a great game. It's a great life game. You get to learn a lot about yourself. And maybe golf will be 12 holes someday. I don't know, the way it's going these days.
No April Fool's joke. Jay Williamson, St. Louis Sports Hall of Fame.
All right, the next two guys we are going to introduce together. There's a reason that you will